They said it was too late, that the best years were behind him. But he wasn't done. He was just getting dangerous. This podcast isn't for the overnight success stories. It's for the ones who are still in the middle of the damn fight. The late bloomers, the blue-collar visionaries, the people who refuse to settle. This isn't a comeback. It's a fucking uprising.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electrician and Entrepreneur. Those of you that were with me last week, you know the fire's lit. First episode's out. Podcast launched. For everyone else, this is the unfiltered journey of rewiring my life from the ground up. Today we're going to take the next big step in that journey. We're going to talk about something I realized I can't do alone. We're going to talk about asking for help. This is the power of partnership. So started this, for those that don't know, I started my journey away from being an electrician to becoming an entrepreneur about a year and a half ago. And for most of that time, up until recently, I thought that, the journey to shifting your mindset to becoming successful, all of that really it was a must do alone. This is your journey to do. It's important to understand that a lot of what makes your journey successful is understanding that nobody's interested in coming to save you, because I was wrong, and that's where this unless comes in. Unless you ask for help. If you're having trouble doing something and you ask for help, chances are you have a support network there, or you can find one easily that's willing to help. And we're going to look into how I managed to change that mindset that I was all by myself on this journey, and what it meant for Julie to partner up with me for running this business. So we're going to catch up because, absolutely, this is a docu-series. I want you to understand that where I'm at in my journey with each episode, so that it gives you some kind of inkling as to, this isn't just I'm not already successful. I'm not just some guy advertising some consulting service or, book me for your motivational speech. I'm nothing like that. I'm not already successful as an entrepreneur or as a life coach or any of those things that I aim to be. And that's really the point of all this, is to document my journey from starting from pretty much almost nothing to becoming very successful. Very low budget currently to accomplish all these things. And I want you all to realize that if I can do it, you can do it. There's no reason in my mind, there is absolutely no reason why I can't do it. And as a extension, neither can, there's no reason that you can't do it. So this past week, we launched our first episode, and that was huge. Milestone number 2 on my 90-day exit plan. And for those that are new, 90-day exit plan, it was initially supposed to be 90 days. It's just, I keep calling it the 90-day exit plan. In reality, the plan has extended to January 1st. I will be at that point without a full-time job, and I will be completely financially free, so that I can put all of my focus into building this entrepreneurship and then building the businesses that I plan on building around this journey. So releasing the podcast was it was fantastic, having hit that milestone, stacking the wins, getting it all out there. Huge, really, really, really big shift in momentum for me. It really felt like we're making big changes. And that's all great, but it's really important. If you're going to do a podcast, make sure you do it for the right reasons. If you're doing it as your sole, as a means for your sole income, understand that that's going to take you a long time. It's not going to happen right away for you. I mean, if you have some of the best marketing out there and your podcast is purely educational and you're going to sell that, okay, maybe you've got a plan that works. For what I'm doing, this isn't meant to make money. And it's easy to get caught in this idea because there's a million people out there saying you want to become rich, start a podcast. Don't get caught in things like that. So, that was really a biggest struggle for me in this past week, was making sure to not get caught in that trap of, the point of this was to document my journey, nothing more. I can make money on it. Sure. I'm fine with that, but it's not, and I would love to, but I'm not expecting this to be my business. I'm not expecting, this is solely for launching me into actually building a business, documenting the build of that business, and hopefully giving some inspiration to people that are in similar situations that I am. And that was a real breakthrough for me, actually, is realizing that, and keeping that into perspective, making sure, all that to really shape my perspective. That was very, very important, and a great win, is just grounding myself once again. The other thing is that I, once again, the point of the partnership is really to hold myself accountable, but that doesn't save me the trouble of holding myself accountable. You have to hold yourself accountable. It's your responsibility to hold yourself accountable. To have help holding yourself accountable is really, that's what we're talking about today. And that's what I asked for help with, is to make sure that I'm holding myself accountable. So that was, I got, I use Gemini, the AI tool, for those that may not be aware, to kind of help me, help me kind of navigate through all of the different aspects of building a business. And it's been a really big help. Definitely a game changer. I don't know 10 years ago, if I tried to do this, if I would be, moving at the pace that I am now. I probably would have given up, honestly, because I would be struggling so hard to find the information that I need in order to keep moving forward. So that was really, that was a big struggle for me working with Gemini this past week, because I didn't have a strategy for working with Gemini quite yet. I'd been thinking about it because before Gemini, I used ChatGPT, and after a certain period of conversation, it begins to get jumbled. And with ChatGPT, it allows you to go through multiple conversations and remembers all of that information. However, there's the long-term information that it stores, and then it's the searching through the conversations that it can do. But regardless of the separation between those things, it gets to a point where it can't keep all the facts straight, and then that's where it begins to hallucinate, and it gets really frustrating. So that's when I switched to Gemini, because Gemini doesn't do things quite the same way. You could really just keep one conversation going, and the idea was, no matter what, it wouldn't hallucinate information because it couldn't keep track anymore. Well, as it turns out, that's not entirely the case. You can hold a longer conversation, but you can't. It does eventually get a little mixed up and start making mistakes, especially if you're trying to modify things, have it modify things it's already done before. It will keep reverting. It has a way of keep reverting back to what it did before because it gets confused. Going through all those problems, the big win there was grounding myself again, saying, okay, this isn't helping. I have to put the strategy together. I can't keep fighting with with these things that don't work quite the way I want them to. So I need a strategy that will overcome that. And that's a big win, is once again, grounding myself, getting around the problem and finding the opportunity and to do something different, which in and of itself teaches me a bunch of different things, allows me to come up with new strategies. I mean, this is the wondrous thing about accepting that struggle is part of the journey. And so that huge breakthrough, and it ties all of that, the ability to do all those things really ties back to stacking these daily habits that I've been stacking. And I'm not done stacking those, mind you. I mean, I'm far from being the enlightened, successful entrepreneur that I aim to be. But as of right now, the habits that I managed to stack is every morning I start, I grab my coffee, and the first thing I do is I listen and watch a couple of motivational videos, and that puts me in a mindset, a positive mindset, an understanding mindset that, these motivational videos kind of lay it out for you. You have to accept the grind, you have to accept the struggle, you have to accept the failures, etc. But that puts me in a mindset that's ready to take on the day, no matter what happens. And then I follow that habit up with, I have to come up with at least 3 things, and I like to actually do more depending on my mood. But typically I'll try to do more, but come up with 3 things that I'm grateful for. And doing that every day is a really important thing, because it allows the more you keep doing that, the more you keep seeing things to be grateful for. It's not to say that it erases your ability to get frustrated, or that it erases, reacting to things in a negative light, or being grumpy, or etc. That doesn't erase that, but it makes it a lot easier to shift your mindset back from that of being, doubtful, being frustrated, being angry. It allows you to shift from that back to one that's positive and productive a lot faster. And I have definitely noticed I've been doing those 3 things, and then journaling. That's the third thing. And I journal every morning as well. And I noticed that, now I've been doing that for 3 months, every day, without fail. And that consistency, that discipline to keep doing that every day, and stacking that one day after another, that daily habit or set of habits, it's taking effect now. I'm a lot quicker to get away from anger. I'm a lot quicker to get away from reacting to things. I'm a lot quicker to look at things from a perspective of, how can I build from this? Or what is the lesson to be learned in this? You will be amazed if you put all of your energy into these things among other habits. every day, just being disciplined alone. If you do this every day, you're going to realize it works. So it's important, doing all that stuff was important, and it's really worked for me. So let me get into the heart of what this episode is about. And I'm gonna so it's a little bit of a story time. I've already mentioned that I've been doing this for about a year and a half, trying to shift my life into a different direction from the last 20 years of being an electrician. And it's not that I don't like being. I love being an electrician. It just doesn't fulfill me anymore. And there's a big difference between doing something you love and doing something that you love that's fulfilling, or just plain fulfilling. So it wasn't really, filling all those gaps. So for the past year and a half, I was frustrated, I was working on all this back end stuff that I really didn't understand how to build it, new tools, not so great instructions. And I'm spending more time on building the system that I'm going to build with than I am actually building. And all that time I'm spending building the system, I'm not really making any progress there either, because this is things that I don't understand how to use. I'm new to it all. It takes time to learn all these different things. And it's like, to be successful, you don't need to know every aspect of how to run a business. There are certain things when you're a leader of a company that you just don't bother yourself with. It would be a waste of your time to understand everything. A CEO doesn't do the accounting. He looks at the numbers, but he doesn't do the accounting. He doesn't do the taxes. Imagine if every CEO had to know every last bit of tax law. They'd never get anything done. They'd spend all their time questioning why they're paying this tax, or how they can get away from paying that tax. So you don't need to know every aspect. So, that's really, I was spinning my wheels there, just trying to learn all these things, do all these things. And I'm just getting frustrated, more and more frustrated. And this went on for a while. And the problem is that my not only am I frustrated, I'm losing hope. I'm starting to doubt. And one day it occurred to me, mind you, I'm not particularly crazy about the company I work for. I'm not particularly crazy about the hours that I'm working, or splitting my focus between two different things. Really, it's not. It's not. But it's not productive. And I said to myself, I got to get out. I got to get out of this job. I got to put all my focus into the thing that I'm trying to do, the thing that's going to be the most rewarding. I need to put all that there. But what are the issues here? Can I do this on my own in 90? I wanted to get out in 90 days. Can I do this on my own in 90 days? No. That's a really short time frame. And I 90 days to me was like the perfect number. Give it 90 days. At 90 days, I get it. If I can replace my income and start working on this, then I really have a lot of momentum here. I was being a little unrealistic, but I'll get to that in a minute. So on my own, am I going to be able to leave in 90 days? No. How am I going to manage the back end of this business. I've been working on this for months and months and months, and I haven't gotten anywhere. So how am I going to do that? Man, keeping a close eye on my finances and getting myself out of credit card debt, building up a safety net so that I can, so that I'll have a few months to kind of fall back on if I need it after I leave the job. And that's when it occurred to me. I have, I've got these little pitfalls in my personality. Even though I've been working on these mindset shifts and everything else like that, the frustration's still there. It's easy. It can be really easy to get frustrated when you don't understand how to do something and you're trying to do it all by yourself and you don't have anybody to help you. And on top of that, the doubt sets in and all that. And then when all that happens, I'm not achieving the things I set out to achieve. And one of the biggest things that you need to do to become confident in something, so the doubt really is, I doubt that I'm going to have, consistent, that anybody's going to want to pay me money for anything in 90 days. I'm not confident that I'm going to be good enough to do anything like that. And one of the secrets to gaining confidence is achieving the things you say you're going to achieve, doing the things you say you're going to do consistently, proving every day that you are who you say you are. And I thought, well, so if I'm struggling to do all these things in the background to create the system and everything, maybe since I'm not consistently doing things, maybe I just need somebody to manage me. And so then I, and this is where it's kind of funny. So that's when I texted Julie and I says, you know what? I think I need a manager. And she responds, what, like a talent manager? And I thought that was hilarious. Like, you mean like, somebody that books your shows for you and make sure that you have the right candy in the green room while you're waiting to go on stage or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm not a talent. I mean, maybe someday, I'll be viewed in that fashion. Certainly with the podcast, you might view me in that fashion to some degree, but I don't consider myself to be the talent. So it's not a talent manager I need. What I need is somebody that's going to hold me accountable to hold myself accountable. Somebody that's going to make sure that I am doing the things that I said that I promised myself I do, or that I promised somebody else I would do. Somebody to remind me, yeah, so forget about that thing that's frustrating you. That's not important. What's important is you said you would do this thing. So that's where it started. And I says, okay, so what if, would that be something you'd be willing to do? I'm not really looking for a mom. I don't need you to tell me when to brush my teeth or that I should be in bed. It's not like that. It's just, the support to say that I can do something, and then the drill sergeant to say, well, now don't forget, you got to do it. You've got to do this thing. You got to do that thing. And that was really one of the things I worried about, is that she would she would say no to me, because she's already played that role. At one point, or for many years, I was in a dark place in a lot of ways, and she had to play mom to me. And it's an unfair thing to ever ask of any spouse, is, to play the parent. They're there to be your partner, not your parent. You're supposed to hold yourself accountable, no matter what, to everything. It's not their job. What I'm asking is not to be a parent, though. What I'm asking now is help me be better at holding myself accountable. And she said yes, and I couldn't believe it. I was amazed. So the great thing about this, is that it suddenly put me in a position of feeling like I can do this. She's going to support me. She's going to help me with all the things, help me accomplish all the things that I have very frustrated with, or that I have a hard time figuring out. Together we can figure, if it's something that she frustrates with and gets frustrated with, then the two of us can figure it out together. I mean, these are great moments to work together. And suddenly everything seems so much more plausible, so much more achievable. Just, and in addition, with her support and with all that help, I can finally realize the person I mean to be. So at this point now, we need to decide, what this means, what this partnership means. And first and foremost, the greatest thing that she's provided for me in the last 4 weeks, I mean, she was already providing it for me to a certain degree, but now we treat each morning as though it's a partnership. We continue the rest of our day like a partnership. And one of the greatest things that she provides for me is the ability to just ramble on for an hour every morning after doing our morning rituals. Over my cup of coffee, I can, I'll go off on tangents about all these positive thinking rituals, how to avoid negative mindset traps, etc. And that allows me to also work out these problems out loud. I tend to do a better job of problem solving when I'm when I'm doing it out loud. And so that was one of the greatest parts of this new partnership. But the other is that she handles all these things on the back end that otherwise frustrate the living crap out of me. Is like the list of things, and we're splitting up the workload. There were so many things to do all the time. Accomplishing all of that stuff by myself is just, it's daunting. It's a lot. You'd have to really break it down to hardly accomplishing much week after week after week. And I mean, you can do it. Certainly you can do it. But the biggest difference here is that because we're doing this together, I'm able to accomplish not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times the amount of tasks, if not more, in a week. And in addition to that, immediately after putting this partnership together, momentum really started to build up. Came up with, all right, so we're going to launch a podcast. All right, let's start putting everything together. Let's figure out what that's going to be. And then we set up a roadmap. We got a whole roadmap. This gets me away from my 9 to 5 by the end of the year. And so she's going to handle these tasks this week, and I'm going to handle those tasks. Milestone 1 hits, boom. Our first major win. And then we continue to go, ride that momentum. Had a little hiccups, had to push things off another week. It's a good thing we did, because there was so much to learn. We really put a lot on our plate for 1 week. So making it 2 great management shift, if I say so myself. And we got everything together. Podcast is released. Milestone number 2. Boom. It feels like we're moving at a breakneck pace. So she's given me a lot more interest in improving my discipline because of what she's providing me for support. I have complete faith that all those things that were frustrating me, that I was struggling to accomplish, I have complete faith that she's getting there, because she is also communicating with me when she's having trouble. Every morning we check in with each other and talk about the things we accomplished the day before, keep a constant log of what we're doing and what we've accomplished. And so these things are constantly, we're constantly moving forward. This isn't, there's no dictatorship here, which is fantastic. It's something I always worry about. And, and so now I feel like I can add more to my daily habits. I don't, I continue to improve myself more and more and more. Stacking them like crazy. That's the idea. We're going to stack all these better habits, all these CEO habits, and become the ultimate person, the ultimate Liam I can be. And in addition to, so, I mean, it's important at this point, with all this said, it's important to keep things in perspective. And I got to say, I feel like I'm doing a really good job of keeping things in perspective between me and her. This isn't a dictatorship. And it's really easy when you're leading, so in this case, I play the role of the visionary. She plays the role of the back end administrator or operations. I forgot. We came up with a title. I'll have to figure that out and get back to you guys. It's a fantastic title, but it basically has to do with operations, and fantastic title. And but it's easy when you're a leader to think that you just tell people what to do and that's all there is to it. No, it's not like that at all. And that's really the important thing, is that her and I it's not just a partnership. I mean, it's collaboration, and that's how every business should be run. It should be collaboration from the top to the bottom, period. You work with the people that are most direct to working with you, and as a collaboration, not as a leader shouting orders to his team, because that just creates resentment, it creates stress, it doesn't get anybody anywhere. And realistically, well, it just doesn't work. I know people have been doing it for centuries, millennia even, but the world's changing. Nobody wants to, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why maybe you're watching this podcast and interested in what I'm doing, because nobody wants to be treated like they're a subordinate anymore. They want to feel valued. They want to feel like they're really contributing in a big way. And, historically, leaders would take credit for everything that the subordinates would do. So the subordinate would be left saying, well, what's the point? I'm just going to collect a paycheck. And that you fall into this robot mode. You don't feel very accomplished. You're not getting anywhere. Well, the world is changing. People want to feel accomplished. They want to feel valued. They want to feel as being part of the team, that they're contributing something so huge to the team that nobody wants them to go. They want to feel like they're part of the in crowd, right? I want to know what's going on. So it's very important for me to keep the perspective that Julie is not my subordinate and that this is the way my company is going to be run. Is that this is going to be a collaboration from the top down. If I hire you to do a job, I don't care if you're managed by somebody that's managed by somebody that's managed by me. You're still an important member of the team. And so if the person that's managing you isn't providing you with the support that I want them to provide, then that manager needs to be re-educated on how to better lead. And I won't accept that that's because your business is changing. You see more and more as the .com startups. You've been seeing more and more of these progressive companies come up. And I'll tell you what, leaders are starting to understand the value of everything that's changed since 2000. So that's why it's important, because I understand the value of feeling valued. And so I have to keep that in perspective constantly. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job at it. But a great example of how this, how that all works. This past week's working with Gemini, I want to knock out the outline to the show and start working on a business plan. I don't, just to explain how I come up with my material. And so I do the outline, the talking points for the major topic of the show. So like what I'm talking about right now, that I get that out of the way early. I have an overall outline, and then come Friday, Saturday, I can add in the things that have happened over the course of the week and then tie it all together with the intro and the outro. That is the introduction segment and the closing segment. And so I was having a lot of trouble with Gemini for some reason, remembering this stuff and putting together, our to-do list for the next milestone, keeping the momentum up. Just kept going in circles. And, on the flip side, though, Julie was killing it. She's setting up these tasks and knocking them down like they're, like bowling pins, right? And it was with all of that, with all that she was accomplishing, it was hard for me to not say, why am I focusing so hard on this stupid thing when I know all I got to do is change my strategy for working with Gemini, and I can and it'll start to work the way I want it to, start working for me again. And so that was a huge, huge, huge win. So in essence, I kind of forced myself by having this partnership. I kind of forced myself to constantly to not just prove things to myself, but prove things to her. And I think in a lot of ways, she's doing the same. She wants not just to prove to me that she's, here to support me, or that she's, great at tackling all these supportive roles that I ask her to do. But I think that she also feels like she's accomplishing, things on her own, that she's able to do all these. I know she's definitely getting something out of it. And so this partnership between the two of us is fantastic, in that I've seen a complete mind shift change in her, and a complete mindset shift in her, and I've seen a complete mindset shift in myself. So it's really worked. It's really working, I should say. Now, if I've learned anything it's easy to become stagnant with your plans. Get stuck on the details, never really have anything that's actionable or moves the ball forward. And that's what was happening prior to this, to this partnership. You can try to do everything on your own, all you want. But at some point, you have to realize that you're going to need help. And I had to learn that the hard way. Don't take my word for that help is a necessity. At some point, you're going to have to ask somebody to help you. You're going to have to ask somebody to step in and take some of that load off of your shoulders. And, some of the greatest minds of the past couple centuries have all understood that early on, even, which reminds me of a story, and actually an interview I saw, that an interview of Steve Jobs, and I don't remember what the question was, but he was asked, or as a kid, he needed some parts for a project, and he decided to just call Bill Hewlett, the CEO of Hewlett Packard, and ask for what he was looking for, what he needed. And surprisingly, Mr. Hewlett said yes, and even gave him a job. I want to say it was a summer job. And Steve wraps up this interview by saying, most people never, or wraps up the story rather by saying, most people never ask. And that's what separates the people who do things from the people who just dream about them. And I think that's, this is the lesson, right? If you think you can do everything and you never ask for any help, you're only going to go so far. And for some people, that's literally just dreaming. So my mission's all about finding financial freedom, becoming free not just to do what I want, but to be myself, to be my authentic self, to do the things that I'm most passionate about, to enjoy my every part of every aspect of my life. And I, again, I thought this was something I had to do by myself. I had to figure out how to become that person all alone, and I had to achieve all those things all alone. And now that I've asked for that help, and now that I have Julie by my side, it's a completely different story. The goal is now connected on a very personal level. Not only are we searching for my personal freedom, we're searching for hers. She sits in on every thought. She does. She gets to learn every lesson as we go along. And when I'm struggling, she gives a different perspective on what I might be struggling on. And it goes both ways. I mean, she might be learning a lesson, and I get a piece of that too. So while it's not a shared journey per se, I mean, while it is a shared journey, it's not the same journey. I like to kind of refer to this. I like to kind of use an analogy. Think of it like this: you're walking with somebody on a trail. Say you're hiking up a mountain trail, and you're walking with somebody. You're looking at the same trees. You're looking at the same rocks. You're looking at the same dirt. You're looking at the same animals. You're looking at the same sky. However, what you're looking at is not exactly the same as what they're looking at, because your perspective cannot be at all matched by their perspective. It is completely separate. Try to imagine with what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what sounds they hear, what smells they pick up. You can't experience that the way they are. It is two completely separate journeys, but you're walking side by side. So you're sharing a journey, but they're not the same. And that's what Julie and I have here is this is the realization that really popped and came up. It really kind of pushed me forward, made me ask for help, put this whole thing together. And it is, this is probably the biggest win out of the last 4 weeks that I've got, is this perspective that while our journeys are different, I don't have to walk alone. So me asking her to hold me accountable for the things I say I'm going to do is also, and this is also an important lesson. Me asking for that help is also a great way to ground myself and humble myself and realize that while I'm going to be successful, that doesn't make me, that I don't need to attach a major ego to that. There really shouldn't be a major ego to that. And so that's, I have shortcomings, and that's why, I mean, and that's a reality. And that's why this partnership was so necessary. I want to say, if you're taking this journey yourself, or if you're thinking about taking this journey yourself, and you're looking to get started, and you're hoping that someday you can live a life that's financially free, or a successful life, because success is it's in the eye of the beholder. So success is what you make it, not what somebody else tells you it is. Right. And if you're looking to do all those things, just, consider for a minute, who can support you in this? Do whatever it is you're looking to do, is there somebody that would love to help you do that? That would love to provide you with the yin to your yang, so to speak, help boost you along your path. And if you don't, you know what? If you don't have somebody, you don't have to go very far to find somebody. Again, it's like Steve Jobs says, or had said, all you got to do is ask. And that's what'll separate you from the people that don't achieve anything. Just ask for help. So, maybe it's not somebody now. Call somebody. Maybe you want to maybe just call a life coach, if that's the route you want to go. Look for mentors. What kind of business are you trying to run? What kind of business are you hoping to get into? Call somebody that does that and just say, hey, look, is there any way that I can buy you a coffee and just pick your brain for a little while? Because I'm trying. I very much look up to what you do, to who you are and what you do, and just really consider these as options. You are not alone in this world, and you're probably not the first person to do what you're doing or to do what you want to do. And that's a wonderful thing. Somebody's already figured out a lot of the things that you're bound to learn if you don't ask for help. And the truth of the matter is if you're not going to ask for help, nobody's going to come and rescue you. If you're perfectly happy doing what you're doing, okay, it's great. Keep doing what you're doing. There's no reason you don't have to. But if you feel like you need something different, or you need something better, or you haven't even reached your full potential, then guess what? Nobody cares, because nobody knows that you are looking for help. Nobody's going to come to your rescue until you ask for help. So I'm just going to, I kind of want to wrap things up and just let you know, with all of those things that we've talked about in this episode, it's one of the greatest feelings in my life is understanding that it's okay to want help, to need help, to ask for help. It's okay to get help. It doesn't make me any less of who I am, and doesn't change it. It doesn't change anything except to make it better, to make it easier. It's okay to try to make things easier. I mean, that's the spirit of innovation, right? So try to, make sure if you're considering any kind of major change in your life, really consider, is there somebody that I can talk to? Or reach out to me if you want. I'm more than happy to give advice for what little I know. Truth of the matter is though, someday I will be successful, and hopefully that day comes sooner rather than later. But the truth of the matter is that it doesn't matter when it comes. What matters is that I'm trying, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to push. I'm going to make this work. And if you're thinking about the same thing and you can't think of anybody else to call me. I'll be more than happy to help you. And so with all that said, I want to, so all that being said, throughout this episode and throughout my first episode, I talk about struggles and the importance of mindset and putting the two things together, keeping things into perspective, and all of that. And there's a real understanding that you need to have going forward, or a huge understanding you need to have going forward is that there's no way to avoid running into problems or struggling with things. Frustration, struggle, it's all natural part of getting stronger and learning. You can't progress without that. And so I really hope that, with the audience that I've already gained, and hopefully you'll share this share this podcast or the previous episode, share it with somebody you love or somebody that you think find this interesting. Please keep it, keep moving it along. But, you need to keep it. If you're considering making a change similar to what I'm doing in this, in this journey that I'm going on, if you're considering something similar, understand that you need to embrace the struggle. And you're going to want to check out next week's episode, where I discuss the importance, the big aha moment where I realized that I'm trying too hard to avoid struggling and not putting enough energy into loving the fact that I'm struggling and recognizing struggle for what it really is, which, struggle is that's what's teaching you. So with all that said, I just want to thank you all. I want to thank everybody that's shared this podcast so far. want to thank Julie. I can't thank her enough, really. I want to thank her for all the support that she continues to give me. And I want to thank, all the guys that work second shift at my company. I don't want to give them free advertising, but you know who you are. And, all of those people on second shift, they're good guys. I just, they know company sucks. But, they remind me every day that I see them, that there are good people in the world, and there's, and I really want to thank them too. So, without further ado, I really look forward to continuing to record these episodes and continue to document my journey. And I hope you join me along the way. And until next week, thank you for watching Electrician to Entrepreneur.